The Advanced Encryption Standard, also known as Rijndael, is a specification for the encryption of electronic data established by the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology in 2001. AES is based on the Rijndael cipher developed by two Belgian cryptographers, Joan Diemen and Vincent Raymond, who submitted a proposal to NIST during the AES selection process. Rijndael is a family of ciphers with different key and block sizes. For AES, NIST selected 3 members of the Rijndael family, each with a block size of 128 bits, but 3 different key lengths: 128, 192 and 256 bits. AES has been adopted by the U.S. government and is now used worldwide. It supersedes the Data Encryption Standard, which was published in 1977. The algorithm described by AES is a symmetric key algorithm, meaning the same key is used for both encrypting and decrypting the data. In the United States, AES was announced by the NIST as U.S. FIPS Pub 197 on November 26, 2001. This announcement followed a 5-year standardization process in which 15 competing designs were presented and evaluated, before the Rijndael cipher was selected as the most suitable. AES became effective as a federal government standard on May 26, 2002 after approval by the Secretary of Commerce. AES is included in the ISO IEC 18033-3 standard. AES is available in many different encryption packages, and is the first publicly accessible and open cipher approved by the National Security Agency for top-secret information when used in an NSA-approved cryptographic module. The name Rijndael is a play on the names of the 2 inventors. Definitive standards. The Advanced Encryption Standard is defined in each of FIPS Pub 197, Advanced Encryption Standard, ISO IEC 18033-3, Information Technology, Security Techniques, Encryption Algorithms, Part 3, Block Ciphers. Description of the cipher. AES is based on a design principle known as a substitution permutation network, combination of both substitution and permutation, and is fast in both software and hardware. Unlike its predecessor DES, AES does not use a FI-stall network. AES is a variant of Rijndael which has a fixed block size of 128 bits, and a key size of 128, 192, or 256 bits. By contrast, the Rijndael specification per se is specified with block and key sizes that may be any multiple of 32 bits, both with a minimum of 128 and a maximum of 256 bits. AES operates on a 4x4 column major order matrix of bytes, termed the state. Although some versions of Rijndael have a larger block size and have additional columns in the state, most AES calculations are done in a special finite field. For instance, if there are 16 bytes, B0, B1, B15, these bytes are represented as this matrix. The key size used for an AES cipher specifies the number of repetitions of transformation rounds that convert the input, called the plaintext, into the final output, called the ciphertext. The number of cycles of repetition are as follows: 10 cycles of repetition for 128-bit keys, 12 cycles of repetition for 192-bit keys, 14 cycles of repetition for 256-bit keys. Each round consists of several processing steps, each containing 4 similar but different stages, including one that depends on the encryption key itself. A set of reverse rounds are applied to transform ciphertext back into the original plaintext using the same encryption key. High-level description of the algorithm: key expansions. Round keys are derived from the cipher key using Rijndael's key schedule. AES requires a separate 128-bit round key block for each round plus one more initial rounded round key key. Each byte of the state is combined with the block of the round key using bitwise XOR. Round subbytes, a nonlinear substitution step where each byte is replaced with another according to a lookup table. Shift-rows, a transposition step where the last three rows of the state are shifted cyclically a certain number of steps. Mix columns, a mixing operation which operates on the columns of the state, combining the 4 bytes in each column. A round key. Final round subbytes. Shift-rows, a round key. The subbytes step. In the subbytes step, each byte in the state matrix is replaced with a subbyte using an 8-bit substitution box. The Rijndael S-box. This operation provides the nonlinearity in the cipher. The S-box used is derived from the multiplicative inverse over GF, known to have good nonlinearity properties. To avoid attacks based on simple algebraic properties, the S-box is constructed by combining the inverse function with an invertible affine transformation. The S-box is also chosen to avoid any fixed points, i.e., and also any opposite fixed points, i.e., while performing the decryption, inverse subbyte step is used, which requires first taking the affine transformation and then finding the multiplicative inverse. The shift-rows step. The shift-rows step operates on the rows of the state. It cyclically shifts the bytes in each row by a certain offset. For AES, the first row is left unchanged. Each byte of the second row is shifted one to the left. Similarly, the third and fourth rows are shifted by offsets of 2 and 3 respectively. For blocks of sizes 128 bits and 192 bits, the shifting pattern is the same. Row n is shifted left circular by n1 bytes. In this way, each column of the output state of the shift-rows step is composed of bytes from each column of the input state. For a 256-bit block, the first row is unchanged and the shifting for the second, third and fourth row is 1 byte. 3 bytes and 4 bytes respectively. This change only applies for the Rijndael cipher when used with a 256-bit block, as AES does not use 256-bit blocks. The importance of this step is to avoid the columns being linearly independent, in which case AES degenerates into 4 independent block ciphers. The mix columns step. In the mix columns step, the 4 bytes of each column of the state are combined using an invertible linear transformation. The mix columns function takes 4 bytes as input and outputs 4 bytes, where each input byte affects all 4 output bytes. Together with shift-rows, mix columns provides diffusion in the cipher. During this operation, each column is transformed using a fixed matrix. Matrix multiplication is composed of multiplication and addition of the entries. Entries are 8-bit bytes treated as coefficients of polynomial of order x7. Addition is simply XOR. Multiplication is modulo irreducible polynomial x8 plus x4 plus x3 plus x plus 1. If processed bit by bit, then after shifting, a conditional XOR with 0x1b should be performed if the shifted value is larger than 0xFF. These are special cases of the usual multiplication in GF. In more general sense, each column is treated as a polynomial over GF and is then multiplied modulo x4 plus 1 with a fixed polynomial C equals 0x03 x3 plus x2 plus x plus 0x02. The coefficients are displayed in their hexadecimal equivalent of the binary representation of bit polynomials from GF, x. The mix columns step can also be viewed as a multiplication by the shown particular MDS matrix in the finite field GF. This process is described further in the article Rijndael mix columns. The around key step. In the around key step, the subkey is combined with the state. For each round, a subkey is derived from the main key using Rijndael's key schedule. Each subkey is the same size as the state. The subkey is added by combining each byte of the state with the corresponding byte of the subkey using bitwise XOR. Optimization of the cipher on systems with 32-bit or larger words. It is possible to speed up execution of this cipher by combining the subbytes and shift-rouse steps with the mix-columns step by transforming them into a sequence of table lookups. This requires 4 256-entry 32-bit tables, and utilizes a total of 4 kilobytes of memory, 1 kilobyte for each table. A round can then be done with 16 table lookups and 12 32-bit exclusive OR operations, followed by 4 32-bit exclusive OR operations in the add-round key step. If the resulting 4 kilobyte table size is too large for a given target platform, the table lookup operation can be performed with a single 256-entry 32-bit table by the use of circular rotates. Using a byte-oriented approach, it is possible to combine the subbytes, shift-rouse, and mix-columns steps into a single round operation. Security. Until May 2009, the only successful published attacks against the full AES were side-channel attacks on some specific implementations. The National Security Agency reviewed all the AES finalists, including Rijndael, and stated that all of them were secure enough for U.S. government non-classified data. In June 2003, the U.S. government announced that AES could be used to protect classified information. The design and strength of all key lengths of the AES algorithm are sufficient to protect classified information up to the secret level. Top secret information will require use of either the 192 or 256 key lengths. The implementation of AES in products intended to protect national security systems or information must be reviewed and certified by NSA prior to their acquisition and use. AES has 10 rounds for 128-bit keys, 12 rounds for 192-bit keys, and 14 rounds for 256-bit keys. By 2006, the best-known attacks were on 7 rounds for 128-bit keys, 8 rounds for 192-bit keys, and 9 rounds for 256-bit keys. Known attacks for cryptographers. A cryptographic break is anything faster than a brute force, performing one trial decryption for each key. This includes results that are infeasible with current technology. AES has a fairly simple algebraic description. In 2002, a theoretical attack, termed the Xsl Attack, was announced by Nicholas Courtois and Joseph Piprick, purporting to show a weakness in the AES algorithm due to its simple description. Since then, other papers have shown that the attack as originally presented is unworkable. See Xsl Attack on block ciphers. During the AES process, developers of competing algorithms wrote of Rijndael, "We are concerned about its use in security-critical applications." However, in October 2000, at the end of the AES selection process, Bruce Schneier, a developer of the competing algorithm Twofish, wrote that while he thought successful academic attacks on Rijndael would be developed someday, he does not believe that anyone will ever discover an attack that will allow someone to read Rijndael traffic. On July 1, 2009, Bruce Schneier blogged about a related key attack on the 192-bit and 256-bit versions of AES, discovered by Alex Baryukov and Dmitry Kovradovich, which exploits AES's somewhat simple key schedule and has a complexity of 2119. In December 2009 it was improved to 299.5. This is a follow-up to an attack discovered earlier in 2009 by Alex Baryukov, Dmitry Kovradovich, and Ivica Nikolic, with a complexity of 296 for 1 out of every 235 keys. However, related key attacks are not of concern in any properly designed cryptographic protocol, as properly designed software will not use related keys. Another attack was blogged by Bruce Schneier on July 30, 2009 and released as a preprint on August 3, 2009. This new attack, by Alex Buryukov, or Dunkelman, Nathan Keller, Dmitry Kovradovich, and Adi Shamir, is against AES 256 that uses only 2 related keys and 239 time to recover the complete 256-bit key of a 9-round version, or 245 time for a 10-round version with a stronger type of related subkey attack, or 270 time for an 11-round version. 256-bit AES uses 14 rounds, so these attacks aren't effective against full AES. In November 2009, the first known key distinguishing attack against a reduced 8-round version of AES 128 was released as a preprint. This known key distinguishing attack is an improvement of the rebound or the start from the middle attacks for AES-like permutations, which view 2 consecutive rounds of permutation as the application of a so-called super SBOX. It works on the 8-round version of AES 128, with a time complexity of 248, and a memory complexity of 232. 128-bit AES uses 10 rounds, so this attack isn't effective against full AES 128. In July 2010, Vincent Raymond published an ironic paper on chosen key relations in the middle attacks on AES 128. The first key recovery attacks on full AES were due to Andrei Bogdanov, Dmitry Kovradovich, and Christian Reichberger, and were published in 2011. The attack is a bi-click attack and is faster than brute force by a factor of about 4. It requires 2,126.2 operations to recover an AES 128 key. For AES 192 and AES 256, 2,190.2 and 2,254.6 operations are needed, respectively. This result has been further improved to 2,126.0 for AES 128, 2,189.9 for AES 192 and 2,254.3 for AES 256, which are the current best results in key recovery attack against AES. This is a very small gain, as a 126-bit key would still take billions of years to brute force on current and foreseeable hardware. Also, the authors calculate the best attack using their technique on AES with a 128-bit key requires storing 288 bits of data. That works out to about 38 trillion terabytes of data, which is more than all the data stored on all the computers on the planet. As such, this is a theoretical attack that has no practical implication on AES security. According to the Snowden documents, the NSA is doing research on whether a cryptographic attack based on tau statistic may help to break AES. As for now, there are no known practical attacks that would allow anyone to read correctly implemented AES encrypted data. Side-channel attacks do not attack the underlying cipher, and thus are not related to security in that context. They rather attack implementations of the cipher on systems which inadvertently leak data. There are several such known attacks on certain implementations of AES. In April 2005, DJ Bernstein announced a cache timing attack that he used to break a custom server that used OpenSSL's AES encryption. The attack required over 200 million chosen plaintexts. The custom server was designed to give out as much timing information as possible. However, as Bernstein pointed out, reducing the precision of the server's timestamps, or eliminating them from the server's responses, does not stop the attack. The client simply uses round-trip timings based on its local clock, and compensates for the increased noise by averaging over a larger number of samples. In October 2005, Dag Arnosvik, Adi Shamir and Erin Tromer presented a paper demonstrating several cache timing attacks against AES. One attack was able to obtain an entire AES key after only 800 operations, triggering encryptions in a total of 65 milliseconds. This attack requires the attacker to be able to run programs on the same system or platform that is performing AES. In December 2009, an attack on some hardware implementations was published that used differential fault analysis and allows recovery of a key with a complexity of 232. In November 2010, Ender Bangata, David Gulash and Stefan Kren published a paper which described a practical approach to a near-real-time recovery of secret keys from AES 128, without the need for either ciphertext or plaintext. The approach also works on AES 128 implementations that use compression tables, such as OpenSSL. Like some earlier attacks, this one requires the ability to run unprivileged code on the system performing the AES encryption, which may be achieved by malware infection far more easily than commandeering the root account. NIST CSEC validation. The Cryptographic Module Validation Program is operated jointly by the United States government's National Institute of Standards and Technology, Computer Security Division and the Communications Security Establishment of the Government of Canada. The use of cryptographic modules validated to NIST FIPS 140-2 is required by the United States government for encryption of all data that has a classification of sensitive but unclassified or above. From NSTISSP number 11, National Policy Governing the Acquisition of Information Assurance. Encryption products for protecting classified information will be certified by NSA, and encryption products intended for protecting sensitive information will be certified in accordance with NIST FIPS 140-2. The Government of Canada also recommends the use of FIPS 140 validated cryptographic modules in unclassified applications of its departments. Although NIST Publication 197 is the unique document that covers the AES algorithm, vendors typically approach the CMVP under FIPS 140 and ask to have several algorithms validated at the same time. Therefore, it is rare to find cryptographic modules that are uniquely FIPS 197 validated, and NIST itself does not generally take the time to list FIPS 197 validated modules separately on its public website. Instead, FIPS 197 validation is typically just listed as an FIPS approved AES notation in the current list of FIPS 140 validated cryptographic modules. The Cryptographic Algorithm Validation Program allows for independent validation of the correct implementation of the AES algorithm at a reasonable cost. Successful validation results in being listed on the NIST validations page. This testing is a prerequisite for the FIPS 140-2 module validation described below. However, successful CAVP validation in no way implies that the cryptographic module implementing the algorithm is secure. A cryptographic module lacking FIPS 140-2 validation or specific approval by the NSA is not deemed secure by the U.S. government and cannot be used to protect government data. FIPS 140-2 validation is challenging to achieve both technically and fiscally. There is a standardized battery of tests as well as an element of source code review that must be passed over a period of a few weeks. The cost to perform these tests through an approved laboratory can be significant and does not include the time it takes to write, test, document and prepare a module for validation. After validation, modules must be resubmitted and re-evaluated if they are changed in any way. This can vary from simple paperwork updates if the security functionality did not change to a more substantial set of retesting if the security functionality was impacted by the change. Test vectors. Test vectors are a set of known ciphers for a given input and key. NIST distributes the reference of AES test vectors as AES known answer test vectors.